so this is what a 1.5 pounds of clay looks like. It's a little bit bigger than we've worked with, I think, on any of the projects yet. To wedge it, you can still probably use one hand. If you need to use two hands, that's fine. And just think about really rolling it rather than squishing it for this. You're trying to get the clay to where it's air bubbles are out of it. You're warming it up a little bit. I've already wedged mine, so I'm just demonstrating briefly what to do. Okay, once you have it wedged out, and then you're going to begin to roll it out. And the piece you're going to roll it out into is going to be 11 inches by 4 inches. So it needs to be long rather than a big, round, wide piece. So when I squish it out, I'm just going to start by squishing it with my hand a little bit, making it kind of wide rather than round. Okay. And I'm not sure how it's going to roll out on here, but I'll try it and see what happens. Okay, so remember, start in the middle, roll up and down, and then flip it. Now, already at this point, it is about 4 inches wide, so it needs to get slightly wider, but then quite a bit longer as well. So if it doesn't seem to be getting wide enough, at some point I'll flip it over the other way. But it seems to be spreading out. It's kind of hard to see, but 4 inches on the ruler is, oh, there we go, it's upside down, is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it this way and roll a couple times just to make sure it's getting wide enough. And this is kind of the area here that I'm worried about not being wide enough, so I'm going to put some pressure there. Looks a little bit better. Let's just continue. And the 1.5 pounds of clay is going to make the top of the piece as well as the bottom of the piece. Okay, so I've got it rolled out. It doesn't seem to be changing in size. I'm going to flip it one more time. And roll it one more time. Okay, so that's done. All right, so I'm going to change this so it fits on here a little bit better like this. So 11 by 4 inches. What I did is I made some little strips out of that tag board that we used when we cut out our tiles that were 11 inches by 4 inches. And so that's 4 inches by, oops, this one's a little bit long. This is 12 inches. So I'm going to cut this down to the right size. These were actually the leftover pieces from when I made the pieces for our tiles, and so it worked out perfectly for the size of this. Okay, so this one's 11 by 4. It fits in there. I have plenty of room for everything. So I'm going to lay that on there, and then I'm going to use the needle tool to cut that out and the ruler. So just put your ruler right at the edge. You're going to need some extra scraps later on, so you'll use these at some point. And finally the last piece will be right here. Okay, so there's my 11 by 4 inch piece. Okay, so the second directions were to do a 45-degree cut on each end. So let's see if I can zoom in and make this work here. Okay, so 45-degree cut. Basically, I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to cut an angle like this. Okay, James. Okay, thank you. And what that's going to do, it's going to help it go together better at the end. So I'm just cutting a 45-degree angle cut. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. So I'm going to slide my canvas over so you can see the other end. And I want the cut to be the same angle. So this time I have to cut underneath it rather than on top. If I wanted to, I could flip it over, which normally cutting it I wouldn't do that, but I'm going to flip it over so you can see what I'm doing. So it was facing down, so this would be on the underside. Okay, I'm going to zoom back up here, zoom out. So now this is beveled here, or at a 45-degree angle, and this one is beveled underneath at a 45-degree angle. So if I set this up now, and whenever you bend your clay like this, do it easily, try to force it together. If your clay is moist, you shouldn't get too much in the way it cracks, but you've got to be careful because it will crack. Now, before I actually form it together, what do I need to do? Score and slit. Okay, so I've got it about in position there. This is not a good angle to show you scoring and slipping, but you know how to do that. I'll just turn it like this. I'm just going to scratch this up. Same thing on this angle right here. Let me hold it like this so you can see. Scratch this up. Okay, and I'm going to grab the slip, put that back in place for just a second there. And by the way, I am recording this so that I'm trying to get all the lessons online, so if you do miss a day, you can go back and see them again, or if you weren't sure about how to do something, you can watch them another time. All right, so I'm getting my slip, and I'm just going to slather it on the end. All right, so now I'm ready to put it together. And so I'm just going to form it together. Now I'll turn it on its side a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. So this is what it looks like from the side. You can see where the seam is. What you want to do now is begin to really seal that seam up. Make sure you support it from underneath while you're doing this. And then you also want to do it from the inside, so you have to reach your fingers down inside. You can also use a tool if you have trouble reaching. The tools that are over there, like this one, you can use that to help seal it up. And I might even have some other tools that I'll pull out for tomorrow to make it a little bit easier to do this part. But the idea here is you want it to be a cup, and so you don't want it to have a seam that leaks. You don't want it to be weak at that point. You can see how that looks all sealed up there now. We'll make it look nicer afterwards. Here's where the bottom was. Just going to work on this a little bit. So take some time, seal everything up, make it look nice. And I think I said this, but in case I didn't, if you didn't get all the notes, I'll put them back up at the end for you. Okay. All right, so it's a cylinder. I want to make it look as nice as I can as far as the basic shape of it. So this is going to be my bottom, the other side will be the top. It's upside down right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tool to help me figure out where the center is. So the tool I'm going to use is a ruler. I'm just going to put it on here. And on the overhead, it doesn't look right because it's not perfectly centered on there. Let me see if I can move it more to the center. I think that's the center there. So if I make little marks like this with a ruler on each side and then turn it the other way and make marks there, what I have now, and I'll make the mark more prominent. Can you see that okay? Okay. I wouldn't normally make them that dark, but I want you to be able to see them. You're going to cut out little darts or little downward facing triangles, and I'll show you what I mean, in order to form the bottom together into a bottom of a cup, because this is going to be the bottom of the cup up here. So if I turn at this angle, you can see what I'm doing. So I'll start with this mark right here between my thumbs. I want to make a triangle that goes down an inch. And if at any point you can't see things, just please say, hey, I'm having trouble seeing. So I want to make it so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and I want to try to keep these as consistent as possible. So whatever this first one ends up being is what I'm going to do them all at. So I'm going to make a mark on each side. So actually this is almost 1.5 inches. So I'm going to stick with 1.5 inches for the size. So I know I'm going to draw from here to there and from here to there, and that's that little triangle I'm cutting out. Okay. So I normally wouldn't lay it down this angle. I would leave it like this and do it, but you won't be able to see what I'm doing. So when you do yours, you'll just cut down, and I'll do it on the second one so you can see what that looks like. But I'm going to support this piece like this, take my needle tool, and cut out this triangle. Okay? So here's the second one. Oops. What did I say, 1.5 inches, right? From there to there. Okay, so there's my marks. I'm going to cut there. So if going straight down on it looks like this, probably doesn't look like a whole lot from the angle you're looking at. But there's my second one. Okay. I'll mark the other two and then I'll do those so you can see them. So 1.5 is here, and the other one will be about there. Okay. Here's my inch, so I'm going to cut down there. Alrighty, so I have 4 triangles out of there now. You can see what that looks like from that angle. So what's the next step according to the directions? Fold them down. Now, I would score a little bit. The clay is really fresh, so I could probably get away without it, but I'm still going to do this because in here we've had a lot of things that have come off of pieces, right, not stayed together. So let's take the time to score and slit. Okay, so it's scored. I'm going to add my slip on these. Now this slip is getting a little bit thick. So if you open up your slip at your table, it's kind of thick. Squirt it with some water a few times and help, mix it up. So I'm basically going to just now work these together. And I'm not going to do one section at a time. I'm going to keep working around in a circle and begin forcing them slowly together. I'm also going to use the tool, not going to use my fingers. So this is one of those times when you have to take your time, really work it together good. So whenever you put things together like that, it helps to have pressure from both sides. So if you can stick your finger in there and kind of support it from the underside while you're squishing it and working it together on top will help support it and keep it from coming apart. Okay, so basically there's my piece. It's a little lumpy at this point. We'll try to level that out as we go. If I flip it over like this, you can see what it looks like from the top. Okay, so what I need to do now is I need to make a little plug for the bottom to seal up that bottom. So I have lots of pieces of clay left. This one here looks like it's just about the right size. And so I'm going to cut out that right there. Kind of perfect. Okay, so I really should score and slip again. Both sides, as far as the scoring goes. Okay, so here's my slit. Now, it's better that this is a little bit too big than too small. If it's too small, what would you have? A hole, right? You'll end up with a crack or a hole, and your tea will leak all over your hands. Okay, so inside you can see it's really not looking real great yet. The bottom looks okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it upside down. And then if your hands fit in here, great. If not, you can use a tool, and I'll show you one of the tools that I'll have out for you. Okay guys, please don't talk right now. So this is one of the wooden tools that I have. It has a rounded end on it. So you can use that on the inside to help you smooth everything out. I want to seal everything up really nice. I want to make it look as though it wasn't stuck on there, or that the inside wasn't, made like it is. And so I'm going to flip it over this way and work on it. I'm going to flip it back the other way and work on it. And just really make this whole bottom portion inside and out look nice, be one piece. And I'm also trying to level it up as I go, so as I'm working on it, I'm using my fingers and thumbs to kind of balance out the shape of it, Keep your eye on the rim. Don't let it get too out of whack. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to turn it gently in my palms and flatten the bottom out a little bit. And then I'll go through the inside another time here and smooth this out. Okay, so it looks pretty decent. I'm going to smooth a little bit more on the inside later. I'm also going to need to work on the rim. One of the most important things on a tea bowl or teacup is the rim, because you don't want to cut your lip on it when you drink your tea or whatever you choose to drink out of it. Coffee, milk, okay, Pepsi, Coke, whatever. Okay, so at this point it's looking pretty decent. I'm going to move to the bottom, although I'd spend a little more time smoothing everything out. I'm going to move to the bottom right now. So I need to roll out a piece that was, do you remember the size? What was it? I need to know what I had written down on there. Was it 4 inches by 3/4 or was it 6 inches by 3/4? 6, okay. The directions that I got for this originally said 4 inches, and I made a base that was 4 inches, and it was so small it just felt like the cup would fall over very easily. So I did one that is this model here, and this one was 6 inches, and that seemed about right. So we're going to go with 3/4 by 6. If you want to make yours slightly smaller, slightly bigger, that's fine. These are general dimensions. So what am I doing? I'm re-wedging it because I put all those pieces together, and I really don't need it anywhere near this much, but I just, for whatever reason, grabbed it. Actually, I'm going to take some off because I don't need all that. Okay, so I'm going to flatten this out. Bring my roller back. And I don't need a really huge piece, but it needs to be at least 6 inches long. All right. Last time. Okay. So your ruler is somewhere between 3/4 and an inch. If you use the width of your ruler, that would be fine. So I'm just going to cut out on both sides of my ruler like this. And I'm going to cut the end off.
This one you have to do at the angle too?
Yeah, you don't have to, but it actually helps to have it. It just makes it go together better. Okay, so that's that there, and I'm going to go slightly, just a 1/4 inch more than 6. And I'm cutting this one underneath this time. Okay, so there's the base, and I'm simply going to gently, carefully, slowly bend it around. At this point I'm going to score it. Add a little bit of slip. And then seal it up. What shape do I want? Circle, yeah. You could actually make it different shapes. It could be more squared. Okay, but I definitely don't want these things coming apart, so I want to take the time to make everything work nicely. So this is ready to attach to the bottom. It's going to go on there like that. So I need to score and slip again. Now I have a tool that helps with scoring. If you remind me tomorrow when we start these, actually I can get it out now and I can show you what it looks like. I have one out here. You're going to be amazed.
Is it a fork?
You know, a fork would work really good actually, but this is a little, it's a rib. Here, I'll hold it up here. It's a metal rib, so it's kind of shiny, but the ends of it are serrated. And so when I go over the clay, it'll scratch the clay up. You can't really tell too well in there. So when I go over the clay, it'll scratch it up. This also makes a nice texture if you wanted to make fur. If you were making an animal, something like that, it does that. Okay, I'm zoomed in now. You can't really see too much. So let me back out. All right, so I know it's going to attach along here, so I'm going to score all this area. Okay, guys, I'm hearing some chat. I'm almost done, actually. All right, so let's attach this to the bottom. Now, one of the things that some of you, most of you have got the concept of, some of you don't, that necessarily won't stay like that. Okay, yes?
Can you use the restroom?
Yes, you may.
Now's not a good time, but I'm moving for
Yeah, just you know where to sign out, okay? A lot of things that are coming off, they're attached like that with slip. You know where a sign out sheet is?
Oh, okay.
Just go sign out there, that's fine. It won't stay on if that's all you do, so really work it into place well. There should be a pass-it there too. And then take something like the tool. It's right over here by the glue bottles there. And then work this together. You want it to look like they grew together, not that that was stuck onto the other piece. What do we do on our first project, the ice cream bowl, to help with this? What do we attach? Yeah, the little ring or the coil. And something like that can help. We don't need it on this one, but you just really make sure you take the time. Now you're going to have the long periods. You're going to have an hour and a half to work on this. I'd like you to try to complete it in one day. If you don't, if you wrap it up fine, you can work on it and finish it on Friday. Okay, so it's not completely sealed up still together, but you get the basic idea. A couple of other things you definitely want to do is get some water on your table. I don't have a place to do it here, so I'll put the rib down. I'm going to put some water on the rib. And then dip your finger in there and smooth the rim out. Okay? You don't want a sharp edge on your rim. And I would do the inside and the outside. So take that, make that look real nice. Now before you do your texture, your clay at this point is still going to be pretty soft. By the end of an hour and a half, it may be firm enough to do your texture. But what I would probably do at this point, once everything looks perfect, everything's on there except for the texture and my initials, okay, I would wrap it up, put it in a bag for the night, and then the next day I would add the texture. Okay? If your clay's leather hard, it's not going to, see how this still distorts pretty easily? It's not going to distort quite as easily the next day. Okay? Now in this one here, I did two types of texture. I used a pencil and I used a little pokey tool that made little smaller circles. Okay, and you can add whatever texture you want to it. I do want it to have some kind of texture. So questions about it? Okay, so tomorrow have your notes. I'm going to put the notes back up for you. But first of all, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to shut the recording off.